Hi, and welcome back to the Project GTM. This is my Factory 5 kit car. It's a GTM. Factory 5 builds it. They come basically as a tube chassis, fiberglass body, and a whole bunch of parts, obviously. Normally built around you supplying your own suspension, motor, and trans out of a Corvette. And of course the rear mounted motor, so Corvette transmission doesn't work. You'd have to use a Porsche transaxle. As you can see, no LS motor back here. This one's going to be electric powered. So I've got a Tesla drive unit, 400 kilowatt, which translates to about 536 horsepower. And a whole lot of torque, because electric motors are very torquey. All that power is available at very, very low RPM. So anyways, this is my project car. I've been documenting everything. If you want to see kind of progress up to this point, you can go back and watch the other videos. I'm going to talk about what's happened in the past 2 weeks here today, as I didn't do a video last week because I got a little tied up on some of this stuff. So anyways, probably the biggest project, biggest single item that I did is this guy right here. So these three big batteries, they're the three of the biggest modules that came out of the Chevy Volt, and built some brackets to set them up and attach them securely to the chassis here. So on the sides, I don't know if you can see in there, those bolts. So those are the factory Volt brackets. And then in the middle, I had to actually build my own brackets because the Volt ones wouldn't work. It would have been too wide to fit in this section. So all custom. Took a little bit of figuring out, obviously, to see how everything was going to go. These things are also heavy too. The two big ones are like 90 pounds a piece. The middle one there is probably, I think it was like 78 when I weighed it. Either way, they're in there now. They're not permanently in there. They've got to come back out because the Tesla drive unit is going to go here. That battery that you see there is just kind of sitting there. It's not mounted or anything, but yeah, waiting on the Tesla drive unit. I've got it here. I need the suspension in place. It's on the way. So this has got to come out. Suspension's got to be mounted. Tesla drive unit put in place. Build some brackets for it. Motor mounts, so on and so forth. And then all this stuff will go back in. So anyways, that was a big project, mounting those three. Once I had those in, I did weigh the whole thing. Have some scales down here. The car weighed just over 1,100 pounds, 56% rear, 44% front, with the batteries in place, but without the Tesla drive unit. So it's going to add 300 pounds to the rear. So that's going to change the weight distribution just a little bit. That being said, there's some stuff up front that's still missing that's going to add some weight too, of course, across the board. Still hoping to get this thing, keep it around 2,500 pounds or so. Ideally, that's target weight on this thing. So I've got those batteries in. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of orange cables everywhere. I've got most of the cables run. I've fabricated them all myself. So you bought a hydraulic crimper. They're all 2.0 or 2/0 cable. There's two sets of Volt batteries, so they're run. Each set is parallel to one another, but each set themselves is in series. So the front battery you see up there, this guy that's kind of in the middle, this one here, also in the middle. That little guy over there, and then the leftmost big battery. So that makes up one Volt battery set. Those are all wired together, or will be. All the cables are made. And then, so these two on the right in the center here, this little guy down here behind the seat, and then these two that aren't mounted they'll be the other set. And then all of those will be parallel with the first set, so that we have basically, they're an 18 kilowatt hour pack, so we have double that in terms of storage capacity. So waiting on the Tesla drive unit to be mounted so they can get these other two battery packs mounted. That weight though, 1,100 pounds, that was with these kind of just sitting in there in the back, because they're going to be mounted back here somewhere whenever it's all said and done. So again, just kind of follow along these orange cables. You'll see a concentration of cables here in the middle. That's because in the middle of each pack is going to be a disconnect that breaks the voltage between the front half and the back half of each pack. So that's these guys. There's two of them because there's two sets. And those basically, once those are killed, then the voltage potential is halved roughly. And more importantly, it would kill all power to the Tesla drive unit because you're breaking the circuit completely. So anyways, those are going to go in the center where they're accessible by the driver or passenger should need be. See some black hoses here kind of running throughout the car. Now none of this stuff's like permanently mounted right this second. It's just kind of run for sizing and positioning kind of thing to get an idea of where it's going to go. So there's a couple, 4 total black hoses here. 2 for the drive unit, and then 2 for the batteries. The batteries are, water cooled, and same as the drive unit. The water has to be distributed to all of them. It's kind of a weird setup. If you go back and look at my one of the last couple videos about taking these volt batteries apart, you'll see how exactly that works. Up here, so I've got 2 radiators for 2 separate cooling systems. I've got some Bosch, these are like the same part number as the Ford Mustang, and I think maybe even the F-150 Lightning, the intercooler water pump. So OE reliability, thought that was important. The radiators here are, as you can see, basically half size. They're the same as what comes in a Honda Civic, like 2000-ish era. Aftermarket radiators, I don't think that's terribly important one way or the other, but I did go with OEM Denso fans. They seem to be the most reliable and flow the most air. Maybe not as pretty as some of the slimline stuff, but reliability and function is more important to me. Don't have all the plumbing done, obviously. It's just kind of running. I was test fitting, trying to get hose lengths and stuff. I'm going to run out of hose a little bit, so I've got to order some of that. So yeah, radiators are in. Did have to make all the brackets. They weren't designed to go in this vehicle, obviously. It was designed around a single radiator from a Corvette. There's still room down there for a condenser. The condenser will be a Corvette part number, so have AC, obviously. So yeah, the cooling system is in process. I feel pretty good about it because it got a lot done as far as getting the radiators mounted, checking, test fitting. Again, there's one pump there is mounted. The other one I don't have a bracket for, so I've got that ordered. It's going to go on this side, just opposite the other one. So yeah, cooling system, electrical, lots of stuff going on, lots of stuff, kind of checked a whole bunch of boxes with that. Something else you'll notice here is this box. So if you don't recognize it, that is a AC evaporator and heater core, basically a whole AC system. It's got some 4 outlets there. Those are for the 4 dash vents. It's got 2 outlets here. You can see one's kind of obstructed by this bar. I'm gonna do something with this to point in a different direction. Those are for defrost. And then down here, we've got the footwell outlets. So this came with the kit, was purchased through Factory 5. It was an additional cost, but it's important to me to have at bare minimum AC in this car because it gets hot here in Phoenix. You see the blower motor there. There is a plastic duct or cover that goes around that. So this, it's not in the same spot it's supposed to be from Factory 5. They normally have it mounted about 6 inches maybe towards the driver's side. So it kind of sits out in the passenger side footwell box here a little bit. It won't be any problem. I've kind of sat in the thing to make sure. But basically with like trying to fit that battery and some of these hoses and extra cabling stuff that this chassis wasn't designed around, had to move it towards the passenger side a little bit. It was pretty easy. I ended up just one little bracket there. Had to fab that, no big deal. Had to take that apart and powder coat it. And then this bracket here is just gonna have to be modified. It's just kind of hanging there for test fit purposes. But yeah, it's there, it's in. Again, it doesn't affect the foot side, the footwell box very much at all. It does stick out, so some of the aluminum panels that would normally go around it are going to have to be modified. But same thing applies for the fact that the aluminum panels that go around that battery there as well. Just again, trying to fit things in a chassis that wasn't really designed around. So yeah, AC stuff, pretty good. Go back to the batteries real quick. Did show you this. So these are some of the fittings that I've made. Hydraulic crimper was a lifesaver for these things. I've crimped this stuff before. It's always a pain. Hydraulic crimper makes it super easy, well worth the investment. And then these little nuts, because this doesn't fit in that area really, which if I had the nut off it'd be more apparent. So I bought these nuts so that these would sit up and over this plastic section. A little bit cleaner, easier to fit, that sort of thing. All right, so moving on. So that's the stuff that's really happened in the chassis. Test fit a whole bunch of things again. I've got some stuff that's semi-permanently mounted, so I know where a lot of stuff's gonna go. So that's great. That's huge. I feel like I got a lot done. A lot of things that were going to be potential problems that came out okay. Some other things I've been working on. So one is going to be this guy here. Sorry, it's really dusty because I just got done cutting this. So this is going to be the dash piece. There are two small monitors, little 4-inch screens on either side. There's going to be a 7-inch screen here in the middle. And then this black plastic is actually something I designed and 3D printed as a shroud to go around all of these. So basically I bought the 4-inch monitors, I bought the 7-inch monitor, took them all apart, stripped them down to just the bare electronics, built my own or designed my own shroud, printed it on my 3D printers, and yeah, so it should be pretty good. The monitor's inside right now, so I've got to go still put all this together, but just trying to give you an idea of where it's currently at as far as that's concerned. Alright, so then we'll move up here. This is something I've been working on intermittently. So this is going to be this guy right here. This is an active cooler. So there's 4 big heat sinks, as you can see. There's going to be just a small little 8-inch fan. And then the blue is kind of the base. Inside the blue is a water block. So there's inlet and outlet here. Basically what's going to happen, coolant is going to go through one of those, it's going to come out the other. But between the water block, which is inside this blue section, and these heat sinks are a whole bunch of Peltiers. So Peltier is a thermoelectric cooler. What that means is each of these wires, each pair, so there's a red and a black, So each one of those goes to a small little ceramic plate. It's got some electronics in the middle of it. One side gets hot, the other side gets cold when you apply voltage. So in this case, the hot side is attached to the heat sinks. You can kind of see some of the thermal compound kind of just like extra that didn't get cleaned up. I'll clean that up, of course, when this is done. So yeah, so the hot side, got to cool it off, so we use the fan to cool off the hot side. And then the cold side is going to act upon the coolant that flows through this thing to cool it down. So this is going to be plumbed into the battery loop as an auxiliary, kind of an additional cooler. I'm not sure exactly how much it'll be needed, but the batteries, this type of lithium battery, they say works best if you can keep them under 130 degrees. Well, I live in Phoenix, so it's gets really hot here, 115, 118 degrees from time to time. So there's not a whole lot of differential there. So again, I want to be able to drive this thing in the summer when it's hot. That's why I made sure I have AC. And this guy will hopefully allow me to, make it so I, keep the batteries nice and cool, functioning, that sort of thing. So yeah, clearly I've got a reasonable amount of wiring. So there's 28 Peltiers total. They draw almost 10 amps a piece, so it's a whole lot. It's 280 amps. If they're 12 to 15 volts, which is what they're rated at. But in this case, I'm actually going to run them in series, so they'll be able to be run off of the high voltage battery instead of the low voltage battery. What that means is the whole draw is only about 10 amps. It just happens to be between like 350 and 400 volts instead of 12 to 15. So anyways, that's that. So interesting project. I can't wait to actually do some testing on the temperatures and what I actually get temperature wise. Getting close to being done, I think. Oh, there's one last thing. Reach up here. So I did one additional last thing I did. I was getting tired of working on the chassis, just trying to figure everything out. So I took a break from that and put together the coilover shocks that came with this. So they're adjustable. You can see the threaded base here. Factory 5, they're actually branded Factory 5, kind of cool. This is 750 pound spring. So this is a rear, the fronts are 450 pound because they do expect the rear to weigh more than the front. And this setup is manufactured by Coney, so pretty decent quality stuff that they've put together with the kit here. Assembly was really pretty straightforward, just included putting the threaded whatever you call it, sleeve, I guess you'll call it there, putting that on, putting the spring on, and then the top hat, just a little snap ring inside. So again, pretty straightforward. And I think that's about it. I've got a whole bunch of parts have come in for this thing recently. These couple boxes of rivets. So I ordered all black rivets to just make some of the stuff a little bit cleaner. As you can see, I've got some of the interior pieces that have been in and out of the car, test fitting for the AC and gauges and that sort of deal. And yeah, that's where we're at for this update. Hope to get a little bit more done tomorrow, maybe. I don't know if I'll do a video after that or not. There probably won't be anything earth-shattering in that one. And yeah, so if you like my project, share it, click like, subscribe, do what you do, and come back and check here. Hopefully in the next week I should have yet another update. If you have any questions regarding the project too, feel free to leave those comments below. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter. Electric GTM is my name there. Same thing on Facebook, has its own Facebook page, also Electric GTM. So yeah, should be able to find it pretty straightforward. And again, hope you learned something today.